Hey guys, what's up? It's Apollo here. I hope you guys are doing well, and welcome back to Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator. In the last video of this game, I asked you guys what battle you wanted to see next, and a lot of people recommended one of the greatest battles in human history. This is the Battle of Cannae. So what we're going to do is just look at how this battle plays out. On the battlefield, we're going to be watching the battle during the most critical moment of the fight. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the number of troops on the battlefield, the strategy that both armies had, what they were trying to accomplish, and how the battle actually plays out before that very critical moment. If you don't really care about that and you just want to go straight to the battlefield, I have a time marker in the description that will take you to the very beginning of the fight. I'm sure most of you guys already know how this battle plays out because it is a very, very famous battle. But for the rest of us, let's talk a little bit about strategy here. So on this side, we have the Roman army, the yellow and the pink. Now they have about 80,000 infantry, which is just a crazy amount of troops. And they had about 6,400 cav on both wings. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough categories over here to represent both cav units. So just imagine that there's another cav unit on this side. So yeah, they've got cav playing defensively, trying to protect their infantry. Now on the Carthaginian side, they are outnumbered by 30,000. They only have 50,000 troops, but they've got some very quality troops. In the front line, we actually have Hannibal, the general. He is leading this army in the front line, which is pretty impressive. They have some Spanish troops and Gaul troops holding the front line. They have one of the most important jobs. So they form like this convex formation, so the center is pointing out and the wings are kind of going in a little bit. And then they have a sizable, like very elite African troops in the back wings sitting in reserve. And then of course they also have lots of cav, and the Carthaginian cav, very nasty, very good, and the Romans feared it. So the Roman strategy going into this battle was to use their infantry, use their numbers. They were going to try to push through the Carthaginian center, break the center, and defeat their army. And then they would use their cav defensively because they realized that they wouldn't be able to defeat the Carthaginian cav without some infantry support. And that's also why they're so clumped up like this, because they could have easily outflanked the Carthaginian army, but they were really worried about stretching their army too thin because of that nasty Carthaginian cav. So that was their strategy coming into this. Now the Carthaginian strategy, well, let me just show you how the battle plays out because, well, the Carthaginian strategy works out a little bit better than the Roman strategy. Okay, so what happens here? The battle begins, and on this flank, we've got some Carthaginian cav moving in, and they wipe out, just like obliterate this Roman cav force. So they're fleeing, and the Carthaginian cav is chasing them down. Then the Roman infantry advances. By the way, let me just move this cav because they still have cav on this flank. So they're advancing. Now the reason that Hannibal is in the front lines is because he needs to make sure that his troops listen to orders. Their strategy here is a very delicate one. So the Romans are pushing towards the center, right? As they push forward, the lines begin to shift. So now they're no longer convex, they're concave. And that's kind of surrounding the Romans. The further the Romans push into the Carthaginian lines, the more and more they fall into a trap. Meanwhile, while this is going on, the cav on this side, they're just playing a bit of mind games, you know, going in, going out, just not cycle charge, but like kind of charging in, retreating, charging in, retreating. So nothing really going on just yet. But as the Carthaginian cav back here defeats the retreating Roman cav, this cav begins to flank around this way, and they make a Roman sandwich and defeat that Roman cav force. So this cav force is gone, and the cav here is now victorious. Okay, so at this moment, we have the elite African troops beginning to flank around as the Roman infantry continue to push deeper and deeper into the Carthaginian trap. The elite African troops begin to flank around and surround the Romans. And then, of course, we have the cav who are free to do whatever they want. They form up a massive force, and then they flank around the backside of the Roman force, and they are completely surrounded. I mean, this is such an amazing strategy, and it played out so well that the Romans, I mean, they pretty much lost their entire army. I think about 3,000 Romans survived. They also had about 10,000 in a garrison fort. They were captured much later on, but can you imagine being one of those Roman soldiers in the fort and then looking at the Carthaginian army advance forward towards the fort, and you would just get a sinking feeling in your stomach being like, what happened? Oh my god. Like, Carthage didn't really lose that many troops. I think they lost about 5,000-ish, 5,700. So you see a Carthaginian army that's like untouched, and you're like, how did they defeat 80,000 Romans like that? I mean, it's got to be jaw-dropping. But yeah, imagine being one of the Roman soldiers being surrounded. There's stories that the Roman soldiers were sticking their heads in the dirt to suffocate themselves because of the horror that just, I mean, could you imagine just kind of, and this took all day. I mean, that's a lot of Romans you've got to kill. So it took all day to butcher these Romans. But again, there's about 3,000 Romans that were lucky enough to escape the Carthaginian trap. And it's estimated that about 20% of the Roman population died that day. That is an insane amount. And I don't know what's more amazing, the Carthaginian victory or the fact that Rome didn't surrender after this battle and even won the war. So yeah, just an amazing time in history. I want you guys to vote. What's more amazing, winning this battle or losing the battle and winning the war? There's a poll right in the corner. Check it out, and I want to see what you guys have to say. Okay, so here we are, guys, with the critical moment of the battlefield. So this is the point where the Carthaginians surround the Romans and begin to kill them, to massacre them. Remember that the Roman cav has now been defeated. There's only just about 80,000, probably a little bit less because there's been fighting going on, but there's around 80,000 Romans surrounded. And then we have about 32,000 heavy infantry surrounding them, 8,000 light infantry, and then of course we have about 10,000 cav who are charging in the rear. Let's go ahead and start the battle and just look at the scale of this fight. Welcome to the battlefield of Cannae, and just look at the scale of this fight. It's truly unbelievable. I mean, when you're learning about history, sure, you know the numbers, 80,000, but when you actually see it, it is jaw-dropping, and you can see how the Romans are surrounded here. I couldn't even find a big enough battlefield to show this one. Now, unfortunately, this is a little too framey. I think it's just a little too large for the game. I'm getting about 4 frames per second, which is just painfully just not good enough. So I think what we're gonna have to do is cut the battle in half. So do half of everything. So it's gonna be a little bit smaller scale, but I just wanted to show you this first, just so you get a good idea of what the battle kind of looked like. And we'll go ahead and press play just to see him charge in just a little bit. Look at that. I mean, just unbelievable. Like, I can't even imagine. I mean, could you imagine going back in time and witnessing the battle? I mean, it would be just amazing. Now you can understand why 20% of the Roman population died in this battle. So pretty cool stuff. Yeah, so I definitely think I need to go back and split everything in half, and hopefully that will help with the framage just a little bit. Okay, so I went ahead and split everything in half. As you can tell, it's much smaller now, and hopefully we will get more frames per second. I also forgot to show you what each unit represents, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Now remember, everything is double, historically, like the actual size. So when you see the number of troops here, just double it. So in the front lines, we have some Persian troops. They're going to represent the Spanish and troops from Gaul. So we got about 5,000 of them. And then on the flanks, each flank, I have 7,500 of the elite African troops, but they will be represented by the wild men. And then in the flank, we've got about 5,000 cav, represented by the medieval cavalry. And then, of course, we have the 40,000 Romans, which will be represented by Romans. So there you have it. Let's go back to the battlefield. All right, guys, so it's a little bit better. We're now getting double the frames, but that's only 8. So hopefully, you know what, let's just go ahead and start it. And hopefully we'll get more as the troops begin to kill each other. So here's the massive charge. Both armies are going in. I don't actually know how this is going to play out, because I don't know how strong the Romans are. This is actually my first time seeing the Romans in this game. So they might just butcher everyone and change history. and win the day. Who knows? I mean, they are surrounded. Unfortunately, the simulator, you can't actually simulate morale. So the fact that the Romans are surrounded probably is not affecting their spirit to fight. But yeah. Also, the battlefield doesn't look exactly like the actual battlefield. Again, I couldn't really find one large enough to hold this battle. This is the closest we're gonna get. But yeah, pretty cool fight so far. You can see the wild men are in the front lines, and so far it actually looks, I mean, I see a lot of dead Romans on the battlefield, so it's actually looking pretty good. Let me go ahead and go into cinematic mode so we can enjoy the fight. Oh my god, look at just the hillside of the, oh my god, look at those Romans. Pretty cool. I mean, I know some people have an issue with this game because of, like, it's so mindless and there's no strategy to it and the graphics aren't good enough or the animations are lame. I love it. I like just to see the scale of the fights, and this isn't even the actual scale. It's double this. I mean, it's crazy. So I really enjoy it just for historical purposes and just, you know, getting a better understanding of how large these battles were. So, yeah, you might, in future recommended battles, you might want to recommend battles that are a little bit smaller. But this, you know, this battle is pretty huge. So, you know, compared to most battles throughout history. It's not the largest battle, but it's certainly one of the biggest, I assume. So the Cav is actually, well, the Cav looks like they're kind of suffering a little bit. I don't know, the wild men are doing great. The Romans are surrounded still on this side. The framage has not gotten better at all. I don't think we're going to have to replay this one as an individual soldier. That's something I like to do for the shorter battles. Like, go back in and fight as one of the soldiers and try to survive the battle. But I think this one's going to take so long that there's no need to do that. We'll just sit back and enjoy this fight. So let's actually zoom out and get a bird's eye view of the fight. The Romans have formed like an X in the center, which is interesting. But yeah, the Persian troops are actually dying pretty quickly. That's not a surprise. I can imagine that the Persian troops are a little bit weaker compared to most of the infantry in the game. Man, I love it. All right, so, you know, just to speed it up a little bit, we are going to fast forward. So let me actually turn on cinematic mode. Or no, I don't need to do that. We'll just speed it up just a tad bit. And then we can go ahead and press P, which will fast forward. So we can see who's going to be victorious here in a timely manner. So remember, guys, this battle took all day to fight, historically. Because there's just so many Romans to kill. Again, I feel bad for the Carthaginians. No, not really, because they easily won the battle. But to have to kill so many people, it must be very tiring. You would have to be very exhausted at the end of the day. But yeah, it's starting to thin out. Let's actually turn off cinematic mode so we can see the number of troops. The Romans are now down to 2,000 or 25,000. They've killed about 5,000. Or no, they killed about 6,000. And unfortunately, the Persians are down to 18,000. That doesn't sound right. I think, yeah, maybe I think in total the Persian team has 18,000. So it seems like the Carthaginians are winning this fight, but we'll see. Again, I didn't balance this. I mean, I probably should have made the Romans weaker to, you know, represent the morale, the fact that they're surrounded. Oh my god, look at all the dead Cav here. The Romans are chewing up the Cav. See, if the Romans were just cool and collective, they would have won the battle. Actually, I don't know that for sure. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could have if they just continued to fight together. I really don't know. I mean, I can't imagine being in a situation like that and just getting surrounded and just so concerned about just getting cut down from multiple flanks. It had to have been terrifying. Alright, so let's go back to normal speed. The frame is still pretty bad, getting about 8-9 frames per second. The elite African troops I think they're doing the best in this situation, which is cool because historically that makes sense. Doing quite well. Skilled infantry, slaughtering these Romans. You want to go ahead? Let's actually, let's control one of the Romans. See what it's like to fight. Oh, we're surrounded. Oh, and I'm dead. Or no, I'm not dead. I just switched soldiers. All right, now I'm this purple Roman. I'm just waiting my turn to fight. Here we go. Oh, what the heck? I keep clicking the wrong thing. I'm so bad. Alright, now I'm the green Roman. Come on, get him. We're gonna fight our way through this. Oh, God. You don't last too long. Alright, so let's go back to another Roman. I'm having too much fun trying to fight off the Carthaginians. Come on, go to the front line. Alright, so the frame rate's a little bit better when you zoom in, of course. There's just so many dead bodies, it's hard to advance. There we go. Let's see. Oh, God. Yeah, the wild men are insanely strong. Let's zoom out. There we go. So the Romans are down to 17,000 troops. The front line, Hannibal's front line, it appears that it's starting to crumble. So the Romans are trying to push their... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They crushed those Persians. Yeah, the Persians not doing so hot. So this actually might be a little concerning for the Carthaginians because the Romans can easily flank around once they defeat that front line. Jeez. All right, let's head back this way. You know what? Let's try to change history. I'm going to control one of these troops. And I'm going to rally. And I'm going to tell them to follow me. On me. On me, boys. Alright, get out of the way, though. What the hell? Why am I moving so slow? Get out of the way. Please. Alright, go this way, guys. Let's try to get around the Carthaginians. Break them down. Alright, so we're getting pretty close. Here we go, here we go. Alright, men, charge. Let's wait for them. Charge! Break their spirits. We'll survive this day. Oh, dang it. I'm so bad. Alright, let's zoom out. Let's see how many men are actually charged around. A good amount charged around, so we're now flanking the Persians. There's still 12,000, so it's actually getting really close. 12,000 against 13,000. So the Carthaginians now outnumber the Romans. And the Romans still hanging on to that box formation. So let's go back to fast forwarding as we wait for the slaughter to continue. Oh my God, are people falling off the cliff? I think the Romans are falling off the cliff there. Alright, so 10,000 against 13,000. Pretty awesome. Yeah, I think the Romans are dropping a little too quickly to the wild men. The cav is also causing a lot of issues for the back lines for the Romans. Young Scipio, he's just an officer at this time. He actually escapes the battle. So the Romans are now down to 9,000 men. Do normal speed as these Romans continue to push. Yeah, so the Romans, they're doing very well against the Cav and the Persian forces, but this is a big concern right here. Yeah, the wild men starting to break through the lines, now getting behind other Roman troops. And this is probably the point where the Romans really start to crumble. And it's starting to become day, which is fitting, right? Because it's taken them all day to kill these Romans. Romans now down to 7,000 men. And they're just hanging on to strategic positions for as long as they can. Down to 6,000 now, or less than 7,000. Oh yeah, look at the carnage here that took place. It's pretty funny that most of them just clumped up around the borders of the front line. Romans still going pretty strong on this side though. Come on, wild men. Get up there. We still have some Persians alive. The Romans on this side forming. They're fighting back to back, trying to fight off these guys. But again, the wild men are just, look at them. They're just chewing them up so quickly. Here, you know what? I'm gonna go to the front line, fight as one of these guys. Oh, surrounded. This is what it's like, guys, to be on the battlefield and be surrounded by multiple enemies. Hold. Hold. You can see Romans, like, shifting from this line to this line. And they're about to break through. Alright, let's try to help defend this front line. Get out of here. Back. Oh my god, you last like a couple seconds. Oh yeah, it's now 10,000 against 4,000. Oh my god, could you imagine if we did the actual scale of this battle? We would be here forever. We would be here for absolutely ever. Now they're flanking around this front line. I'm curious what the wild men are going to do here once they defeat the Romans. Romans are now down to 3,000 men. Some of them are falling off the cliff. Or no, they're not falling. They're actually moving over to the other front line. Oh yeah, there goes the wild men. They're surrounding. Oh my god, you can see the blood on the battlefield. It is getting darker and darker, and the bright blood is easier to see. Why is it so bright? I don't know. Here, let's join the Carthaginian masses. Yeah! Kill me some Romans tonight! Yeah, the wild men are very strong. They have very good stats. Back! Alright. I need more support, guys. I don't want to die just yet. Not in a battle like this. So the Romans did much better in this simulation than the actual, than the actual battle, taking down about 15,000 Carthaginians. Now, historically, again, the Romans only took out about what, 7,000-ish Carthaginians. Get out of here. God, the Romans actually seem kind of weak. I expected them to be like OP, because, you know, they're Romans. And of course the Romans wouldn't have armor like this. Not during this time. They would have something a little bit lighter. They wouldn't have like this heavy armor. So they're down to 1,000. So we'll go ahead and fast forward. That's going to wrap up pretty much this simulation. And we can just look at the aftermath. Carthaginian cav running in the night, supporting other front lines. Down to 800 men. 700. The last Romans making their final stand. So this is it. The only reason that these guys are still alive is because they can't get attacked from the other side. They're now down to 5,000. Carthage is only down to 9,000. Oops. Didn't mean to click on him. The Romans here also making their final stand. You know, let's make this a little bit easier. Let's rally some troops. Alright, follow me, guys. Let's go. Get out of my way, though. Here we go, here we go. This will make this round a little bit quicker. Flank around and give them hell. Give them hell! Die, you Romans. Alright, they're now down to their last 200 men. Now under 200. They're losing them so quickly. Carthage is barely losing nearly as much as the Romans continue to trickle away, to die. And we just witnessed, well, realistically, we witnessed about 10,000 or 10% of the Roman population. But again, we split it in half, and 20% of the Roman population died. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up today's simulation. We're going to end it like we always do, with a good old nuke. Boom! Now, if you guys don't remember, there was a pretty massive nuke at the end of the battle. Nobody knew where it came from. It was the gods displeased of the Romans. So there you have it, guys. That's the end of the fight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.